Hi, this is Len McDougall. It's March 30th, 2015, and as you can see, this place is not lacking in snow. This is the snowiest place in North America, and before you get too impressed, we haven't even had an especially snowy year this year. We're actually about 5 feet below our normal snowfall. However, it has been the coldest winter on record, and it doesn't show any sign of letting up. It's about 30 degrees today, just enough to make the snow slide off our aluminum shingle roof. It's pretty good wind. I'd estimate a 15-mile-an-hour wind coming off Lake Superior. And it's pretty cold out here, but my objective today, with my per usual unscripted, unedited video, is to answer a question that I was asked on Facebook not long ago about how do you start a fire on the snow. And I'm going to show you just how to do that today, at least one of the methods of doing that. The difference between a woodsman and a novice is a woodsman doesn't have a way to do something. He's got 50 ways to do it, because he with the most options wins. So let's get started making a fire. First, we're going to have to gather some tinder. Now, even though this is a white birch, there are silver birches and yellow birches, but this is a white birch, otherwise known as a paper birch. This stuff is not the magic ingredient to a fire making that some people make out. Ever since I was a kid, people were telling me, even my school teachers were telling me, yeah, birch bark is wonderful stuff because it'll burn when it's wet. And it doesn't get wet because it's supposedly got some sort of magical oil in it that keeps it from doing that. That's not true. That is, matter of fact, that's a lie. And the only people who are promulgating that particular lie are people who have never tried it. I, however, have been out in the woods enough times, just starting a fire in the rain, to know that this stuff does get wet. In the old days, people still do it. In the old days, birch bark canoes were pulled ashore and turned upside down at the end of the day. And people still pull their aluminum and fiberglass canoes ashore and turn them upside down. You know why? To dry. The old birch bark canoe needed to dry at the end of the day because the birch bark was wet. It had soaked up enough water that the thing was leaking like a sieve. It stayed afloat for, I wouldn't try to paddle for 48 hours straight because your canoe would be full of water. But it stayed afloat long enough to be a worthwhile material. Now here, now we have our tinder. Now we need kindling. Kindling is small branches. See this stuff here? This is lichen. In this case, it's a lichen that grows on a tree, and we've got a lot of noise from our dogs in the background. Those are our sled dogs, and they just love to fight with one another. And I pretty much get sick of it, but we're gonna have to put up with it because the little bastards are noisy. Anyway, this will be kindling. See, this stuff is dry. As I took the birch bark off the side of the tree, so will I take dry kindling. Okay? Now this stuff should break nice and easily, no problem. And you can't start with too small a kindling, okay? The smaller the stick, the better. Incidentally, This lichen, whether it's reindeer moss or a tree lichen like this stuff, it's flammable. It will burn. So by itself, this stuff can be lighted with a match or a cigarette lighter. Now actually, I think we probably have everything we need right here. Branches off the trees. Whenever you're looking for firewood, clearly you can't look for firewood on the ground in the winter, so you look in the trees. Look up for firewood, because that's where you're going to find it. These dead branches on the sides of the trees, even in the rain, because the branches on the sides of the trees will get less wet than the branches on the ground. That actually makes sense. Okay, we have what we need. Now let's see if I can find a good spot to set up the camera, and we'll start a fire. We have just about everything we need to do it right here. So remember, this is a selfie and I don't do more than one take, so it's all going to be shot in one sequence. And let's see if I can do that. Okay? Okay. Okay. Let's build our fire. Now the first trick when you're building a fire on the snow, and make no bones about it, this snow is up to your hips. I'm just on snowshoes, so I'm not sinking down into it. Somebody once asked me, do snowshoes make it easy to walk on snow? I said no, they just make it possible. Because without them, you're not going to walk on this snow. A snowmobile couldn't get through this snow without bogging down. Now, here's the trick. This is actually a critical trick. Keep your snow off, or your fire off the snow. Okay? Because if you don't keep your fire off the snow will melt, obviously, underneath it, and it will put your fire out. Now, once you have a bed of coals on top of the fire, nothing will put it out. It'll take a 5-gallon bucket of water. Okay. First, take your birch bark as fine as you can. The finer the better. Crumple it up. The wind does matter. I can't get out of the wind right now, so I'm just going to deal with it. Crumple it as fine as you can. Hi, Shasta Daisy. Hi, baby. As fine as you can. The finer the better, because it'll light easier. Go, go. Go. There you go. Okay. Now I'm going to use the Strike Force. This is my favorite fire starting tool. You may remember from several other. There we go. Whoop, almost. Thought we had it there for a second there. Come on. It had started burning, but the wind blew it out. We'll get it this time. Come on. Now, what do you know? gonna make a liar out of me. Normally I can do this on the first or second strike, but today I think it's the wind that's giving me a little trouble. Rest assured, I will light this stuff because I've done this 1,000 times, literally thousands of times, I think. That wind is just giving me fits. Okay, there we go. That wind was just giving me fits, guys. Okay, now the trick is to put very small branches on. Like I said, you can't start with too small a branch. However, it doesn't take any engineering degree to start a fire out here, okay? As you'll see, this will be a pretty flaming fire in no time. It doesn't take any kind of special training or anything like that. What it does take, at least not today, because today it's not wet. Snow is not wet. Snow is actually pretty dry because it's frozen. Frozen water is not wet. Water is wet. Frozen water is not wet. Now, because we have a platform underneath, notice I'm laying all the branches in pretty much the same direction. The trick is to have enough air underneath, okay? Now you can even put a little bit of wet wood on there, like I just did. And like I said, once we have a bed of coals, it's not going to matter because it'll be self-sustaining at that point, and it would take a bucket of water to put it out. Okay, we have a fire. Now, because this is a selfie, I'll retrieve my camera and get some close-ups of the fire that I just built. Like I said, once there's a bed of coals, no problem. It's self-sustaining. And as you can see, maybe you can't see from there, we're building up a bed of coals. We're building it on top of the platform that I laid. Remember, the platform is critical. That's got to be there, or you're gonna pretty much be peeing in the wind. Okay, let me retrieve my camera. And we can get a close-up of the fire. Let me unwind my Gorilla Pod. I just love this thing. It's a small, flexible tripod. This stays where you put it. It's bendable. Okay. We have a fire. Now, you just add on to that with pretty much anything you want. And we're building up a bed of coals, as you can probably see from underneath. See the coals? Those are essential. It's essential that you have a platform, and it's essential that you build a bed of coals. Now, you can probably see that the snow around the fire is melting. It'll melt its way all the way down to the ground in a matter of time. But until then, so long as you have the bed of coals, the fire will continue to burn. And now, see if I can't get a 360-degree shot of this. That's how you build a fire on the snow. Nothing to it. Anybody can do it. I use the birch bark and the old flint and steel strike force, but you can use a butane lighter would have made it quick. It would have lit the birch bark right on fire. So any of the chemical tinder cubes, you probably could have foregone the birch bark if you used one of the chemical tinder cubes. Of course, there's my favorite tinder, the fire wick, that I've demonstrated how to make and use a few times in videos and in magazine articles. And there you have it. It's a self-sustaining fire. Just keep adding wood and that'll burn as long as you have fuel for it. It'll keep you warm all winter. And remember, this is one of the main survival tricks. If you can start and sustain a fire, keep it burning, you're not going to freeze to death. It doesn't matter how cold it is or how poorly you're dressed. If you can start and keep a fire going, you're not going to freeze to death. So this is the #1 survival skill, starting a fire. Okay, folks, you should be pretty much convinced that you can start and keep a fire going on the snow. Just add to this and it'll keep burning forever and ever. This has been Len McDougall, your favorite outdoor author. This is March 30th, 2015 in very snowy woods. And hopefully we'll see the end of our snow at least by June. Just about time for the mosquitoes to come out in massive hordes. This is Len McDougall. I hope you've enjoyed this video. And I'll do another one soon. Thank you. Bye.